Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum coming to you live from KSCO. I'm having a little bit of difficulty getting my all my stuff happening here, so I am going to just go for it. Anyway, I wanted to talk about something very interesting to me and hopefully interesting to you, and that's about your health and the conception of deception, talking about dogma, the dogma that we've grown up with in the healthcare arena, believing that this is what is true. We've been, if you take a look at where we are health-wise, we're the most unhealthy country in the world. And most people have just been led down this gold-covered path, the yellow brick road to health, believing that, there was an answer in a bottle for every kind of condition that you have. And the interesting thing about it is, if you are somebody that, we are as humans, sentient beings, and think we can conceive and we can consider and we can come up with conclusions based on information given to us. And in fact, I've said before, the mind is a perfect thing that we use as the spiritual being. We use the mind to pose and solve problems. And the mind will solve every problem you ever give it 100% perfectly based on the information you give it. So if you give it bad information, it's still going to come up with a solution towards pro survival based on the information you give it. But if you give it bad information, I'm afraid your outcome may not be what you look it to be. I'll give you an example that might give you some understanding with this. So, if you have a calculator and maybe it has what the four is stuck on it, so it's held down, and you add two plus two and you hit equals and it comes up with eight. Hey, that's the perfect answer. That's what it is. So, in other words, there's some unknown information that is affecting the calculator's ability to come up with the correct answer. And that's what happens to us in every aspect of life. So, talking about dogma, dogma basically is something that has been told to us that we believe to be true because it's been uh, told to us, it's culturally correct. It's just the way it is. It's been going on that way for so long, and there's group agreement that that's the right thing to do. And so if you look at dogma in healthcare, we've been believing that our healthcare system worked for the last 113 years. Because when we went away from natural health remedies that our grandmothers and great grandmothers knew and went towards the pharmaceutical substances made out of petroleum, that the amount of volume of information put out was so overwhelming in a very subtle way, coming from a place of authority and or various other things that I'll talk about, that it became the truth, whether it is the truth or not. And look at the news today. If they put out the same narrative long enough, then pretty soon that just, you might resist it at first, but pretty soon you just know that's the way it is. So you just kind of put up with it. If you moved into a place where every time you went outside, there were mosquitoes, you would fight those mosquitoes at first and you do everything you could to get rid of them. But after a while, yeah, there's a mosquito. You just kind of deal with it and swat the flies. So you've become conditioned to your environment. And that's exactly counterintuitive to being. So many of the policies out there or the authoritarian figures, whether subtle, covert, or overt, basically have taught us that we need to adapt to our environment. And that is completely the opposite of what spiritual beings or what people want to do. Think about a young kid who's told to sit down, shut up, do what you're told, don't ask questions, don't look out the window and daydream. No, I want to create. I'm here to create. I'm having fun thinking about what I can do when I get out of this classroom, right? And they make it so overwhelming that unless you're very interested in the subject, you're just going to close off to it. But my point on dogma and health, your health, and the conception of deception. Let's look at the conception of deception because we were taught 113, 14, 15 years ago that the body could not heal itself. It had no ability to do that, and that the only way that your body could be healthy and overcome these obstacles in life was to take a substance that had to be man-made because the ones that came in nature were not um, weren't any good. They just didn't work. Well, you can't patent something out of nature. So it was not anything that could make money for anything. So this huge industrial revolution took off and the pharmaceutical industry exploded. Um, and just look at the commercials today. Talk about the dogma of healthcare commercials. They have indoctrinated us for so long that, you know, just this pill or this thing is going to handle that condition. You know, this will handle that condition. This will handle that condition. This will handle that condition. And we hear it so often that when we have a issue, we go, "Oh, this will handle that condition." Think of there was a commercial years ago, and there was a medication called Nuprin. I don't know, some kind of painkiller. And I just remember there was this one commercial where there's this tawny blonde lady who's got incredible tan getting out of her convertible Mercedes with her tennis racket in hand and a little damp from the game. I guess she was getting into her car and she said, after a good game of tennis, I tell Nuprin where the pain is. And she rubs her right elbow. And it's like, oh, you take the Nuprin pill and you write right elbow on it and and take that pill and it's going to go to your right elbow. Well, how naive can we be? But we believe it, but we don't realize that that Nuprin is going to every part of our body and affecting our body's ability to communicate because it's deadening. It's response. It's deadening the senses so the body can understand there's a problem to go fix it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you have some kind of pain and you aren't doing anything about it, and then you take a medication to cover it up, you think it's gone, the thing gets worse. Take a toothache. Let's say you have a cavity that you've had for a while and that tooth is starting to hurt because that decay's finally gotten to the nerve after all those years. And you just start taking a pain medication every day to numb it down. Well, pretty soon you run out of your pain pill or it doesn't work anymore and you can't get any more because your stomach is hurting too much from taking this stuff and you've got constipation problems because your liver can't process it anymore and now your colon's been affected by it. All you had to do is fix a tooth. But yet we are so indoctrinated by TV every single day, cover up the symptom or subdue your symptom with this medication that we become believers in the fact that that's what we need to do, and that's the only choice we have for our health. So, we want to explore how entrenched dogma is in the institutional ideologies or in our culture and how it shapes our thoughts and our practices of healthcare, in a way that we can actually justify this deception. So, it's gotten to a point where somebody who's sitting behind a desk on a 30th story building somewhere is looking at all the research they put into some medication that's going to handle a symptom. And they're going, we need to market this to pay for the research plus the profit we're going to get by, marketing and the distribution of this particular medication. Well, think about there was painkiller years ago put out, and the name will come to me in a second. I'm sure you know it. And it was put out there, this is 25, 30 years ago, And it was said to help low back pain. Well, it ended up killing people. And, that ended up $5 billion of lawsuits on the fact that this medication was killing people. Well, the company made $35 billion and they look at the profit and loss and go, we can afford to lose $5 billion in order to make $35 billion. So, this is kind of a crazy thing, but look at our healthcare system. Right now, thank God we have some people in the health department that are changing our health pyramid, our food pyramid. They're telling us what to eat correctly. They're getting the dyes out of our food, the 10,000 different additives that the United States is allowed to put into our foods. 10,000 additives. Very few of them have been tested to find out if they're toxic or not. And, by the quality of our health in this country, where, over 60% of us are diabetic or pre-diabetic, 30 million plus, or yeah, 30 million plus have thyroid disease. Um, 25 million have been diagnosed with peripheral neuropathy, which means another 50 million don't know it because their symptoms aren't bad enough. They're just stomping their feet and, wondering why they feel like their socks are wadded up. But we just kind of go on in life with blinders on, like a horse in the rain. You put the blinders on so that they can just keep moving forward without thinking about, what's coming at them from the side. And so I believe that it's in this time of what's happening in the world today, this evolution of our world, where the whole planet is looking at what they've done and how effective it is since World War II. But, the importance of truth and the evidence so that we have trust in the healthcare system. Now, we went through a time where it was, trust the science, and it's evidence-based. Well, now we found out that that was all a bunch of lies, So, and to what extent? 80% of the people in the United States fell for it, 20% didn't. And, but because we were so entrenched with the dogma of, the power above is protecting us. It's like mom and dad are going to take care of us when you're a kid. Well, the government's going to take care of us. The healthcare center, the CDC, is going to take care of us. Well, now we found the fraud is extant and the people were padding their pockets so much that I hope that you're starting to wake up a bit and look at this yourself. And the key question is what counts as dogma? What is the deception in our medical content? And if ever deception was it ever justified? There's so many reasons that they justify this stuff, this dogma. And so dogma is entrenched, non-questioned beliefs or doctrines. It could be religious, institutional, ideological, or professional norm. So dogma is entrenched, non-questioned beliefs or doctrine. So we're talking about dogma in your health and the conception of deception. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum coming to you from KSCO. And I hope that you're having a wonderful day. And I also hope that if you're listening to this, you're considering taking a better look at your own health and also considering helping some people that might need help or they might need to hear this message. So, deception is intentional misrepresentation, withholding or framing of information such that another is misled, include partial or systemic forms. So, dogma, the conception of deception. So, dogma is entrenched, non-questioning beliefs, deception, intentional misrepresentation, misrepresentation, withholding or framing to mislead another. So, is our all these pharmaceutical companies with all these ads on TV, are they deceiving us into think that we're going to be healthier by taking this medication when we just get sicker and sicker and sicker? And for instance, a lot of people with something, they might have been diagnosed with something called peripheral neuropathy, where the nerves that come out of your spine are no longer in the central nervous system. They're now the peripheral nervous system. Just like when you step out of your house, you're in the periphery of your property. Peripheral neuropathy, well, neuro means nerve, and opathy means a pathology or a sickness of it. It doesn't tell us if it's acting too much or not enough, or it's off and on, or if it's just completely aberrated and giving you mixed signals. So, if you have peripheral neuropathy, I just had a woman come in the other day. She unfortunately had been diagnosed with something bad enough that she had to have a lot of chemical injections and radiation. And her condition went dormant, but the treatment basically destroyed the nerves in her feet and hands to a point where she had like 70% loss of function in her nerve. And that's a test that you can have done to be tested for peripheral neuropathy by a medical doctor or somebody like that. But we will actually measure where it's at and then give you an idea whether we can help you. So, but she was saying, all they want to give me is something called gabapentin. And all it does is I'm taking a lot of it and it's not getting any better. So that is a deception that this is going to do something other than let the condition become worse. To what degree? What happens when those limbs finally have no nerve conduction? You end up losing them. But people are not steered towards a better solution. So, it's out there. And we in my office, McCollum Family Chiropractic, if you want another opinion on that, $99, you can come in and we'll take a look at anything that you got. We'll test your nerves ourselves to find out what degree there's a problem with them and give you solutions that could potentially give you your life back. And we've done that. We've been doing this for about 3.5, 4 years to this extent and getting amazing results. So if you're one of those, we have a $99 special that you can come in and get tested to see if we can help you if you've been diagnosed with something like peripheral neuropathy. Um, so we're looking at dogma, deception, the conception of deception in our healthcare. Where did it start and why? Well, it's obviously big money. The healthcare system, it's $5.7 trillion industry right now, $5.7 trillion. 70% of the money spent is spent on covering up symptoms, not um, fixing people. Now, what's interesting about dogma, and you know, even me being on the radio here, I can tell you a statistic like that. You can go look it up yourself, but some people will hear me and go, "Wow, he's telling the truth," or "He's not telling the truth," based on your um, belief in what's going on in the medical system. You might think, "Oh, yeah, anything that doesn't come in a bottle is quackery." And chiropractors, those guys, they got their um, diploma in a back cracker jack box or something like that. And we went through that in the 70s and 90s, all the way 20-year lawsuit against the AMA. They were found guilty of first trying to contain and eliminate chiropractic from the United States, all the way up to the Supreme Court. They had to, was called the Sherman Act, Antitrust Act. Was Chester Wilkes was a chiropractor that sued the AMA. And a little tiny guy, probably barely making ends meet as he's fighting this Goliath um, lawsuit. So, at any rate, I hope that perhaps if you're paying attention to what's going on with the healthcare system, what RFK Jr. is talking about, the explosion of people being very upset in Washington. Why would these people be so upset? Well, maybe because it's cutting off their lifeline. It's cutting off their money lines. And quite honestly, if everything that they were doing was helping people, we wouldn't be the sickest country in the industrialized world. We are. And we're the ones that have 10,000 food additives where Europe has 400. We're the ones with all of those different dyes, green, blue, yellow, red, that we know cause cancer, and we know they cause hyperactivity in children with the Fruit Loops and all this kind of stuff. But the government lets it in, and the studies have been out there, but people just keep moving forward with it. It's kind of like that story that I've told before of a bunch of cattle have been herded and rounded up and put in a big corral, and then somebody in the back of the corral on horses is pushing them towards the gate in front, a chute that they go down one by one. And that at the end of that chute, there's a cowboy up there standing on the post. And as soon as that one cow goes through, he hits him on the head with a sledgehammer and takes him off to the butcher shop. And this is going on, and it's been going on for eons. And finally, one cow in the middle of the crowd looks up and sees what's happening. And he looks around at all these cattle that are just blindly moving forward with the dogma of there's grass on the other side of the fence, I guess, or something like that, you know. And he goes, "Hey, no, look, stop. Look what they're doing. No, go this way. Stop." And all the other cows, if they even look at them, chewing their cud, go, moo. And they keep marching that death march all the way down through the chute, get bumped on the head, and take to the butcher, you know? So we can be like that when dogma blinds us and we've been deceived by big pharma and other industries to make us think that the only way we can be healthy is through the a bottle or a prescription. So when we talk about deception, there's different types of deception. Deception versus non-disclosure versus therapeutic privilege versus benevolent lying. So the conception of conception of deception versus the conception of non-disclosure. So they might say, yeah, this particular medication, like the ones that people take for diabetes right off the bat, is going to help lower the blood sugar level. But they don't tell you, they don't disclose that that isn't going to help you become any healthier. It's just lowering the blood sugar level. That the sugar gets stored in fat cells, and then those fat cells become they hold toxins, and that's how the body stores toxins in fat cells. And then the sugar will become glycinated, which means it's like sugar frosted flakes instead of corn flakes. And then as it's going through your bloodstream, those tiny capillaries get scratched by the crystals of sugar on your red blood cells. And that causes scarring. And as the tissue scars, the capillaries, the smallest blood vessel in the body, gets narrower to a point where a blood vessel can't, a blood corpuscle, a red blood cell, can't get through anymore. So it blocks it up. There's no oxygen to the tissue, so it necroses, meaning there's no oxygen, meaning the tissue dies, and then you get gangrene in those extremities or organs, and they have to be removed. So that's non-disclosure. When you go in, they say, "Oh, your blood sugar's high. Let's put you on this thing, and we'll check you. Oh, your blood sugar's level's normal now. Well, how come I feel terrible? How come I'm putting on weight? How come I'm exhausted? Why is my immune system shot now?" Non-disclosure of that particular treatment. Therapeutic privilege. Okay, then benevolent lying. Now, I'm just going to stay away from that, meaning they don't care about telling you the truth or not. Now, there's a lot of that going on, and we call that fraud. And where they're in the healthcare system, they're telling people something's going to do something, and they know it won't, and they don't care. They're just going to take the money and run. That's not the point of the show today. My point of my show here today is to help you perhaps look at changing your perspective on your health. Because you know what? We're not busy enough in my office. Chiropractors are not busy enough. And we've probably got one of the busier offices in town. But, you know, only 7 to 9% of the people go to a chiropractor on a regular basis. And that might be once a month, which in my opinion isn't enough. And that means that 90% of the people have never been to a chiropractor. Maybe a little different in Santa Cruz, but everybody knows about it. They just don't know what we do. They think we're pain doctors or back doctors. They go, well, I don't have any back pain. It has nothing to do with what we do. We work with the nervous system to make sure that the 31 pairs of nerves that come from the brain down through the spine, which is the only part of your body that's completely encased in bone is the brain and central nervous system, completely encased in bone. Why? Because it's that important. The nervous system's that important. And then it leaves between every two bones and it becomes 31 pairs of nerves that come out of the spine from the neck down to the coccyx or tailbone. And then those 31 pairs of nerves divide and go to 70 trillion cells. And so if the nervous system controls those 70 trillion cells, information to and from them, then if it's working well, the body has this incredible ability, and that's to stay alive. I mean, it's pretty hard to kill a body, and that's good and bad. It's unfortunate when somebody has terrible accidents. That's one way to go, or when they OD on something, or, other things that might take them out quickly. But if you've known anybody in your family, which we all have, that passed away from some kind of disease or condition, they weren't just diagnosed with it and passed away tomorrow. Usually it's a long, slow, painful demise. So the body's trying to survive despite the fact that it is no longer able to control the um, systems in the body, like the immune system, the digestive system, the respiratory system, the circulatory system, musculoskeletal system, all these other types of systems that our body controls, all controlled by one system. Number one, king of the hill, the nervous system. That is what controls everything in your body. And we never got told this in school, ever growing up. In fact, all we know is dogma. You get sick, you go to the doctor gives you a pill, and you get better. They did that with antibiotics throughout the last 5 or 6 decades. I mean, or more than that, to the point where antibiotics barely work anymore because this strain of bacteria has learned how to adapt and mutate to a point where those antibiotics no longer work. And all they were doing was killing the bacteria and weakening your body. Well, the converse of that is, well, let's strengthen the immune system and put the good food in it that isn't inflammatory and not put poisons in it like dyes and additives and glyphosate and other chemicals that they put on our food that will kill us. Let's allow our body to heal. I mean, human beings are the only species on the only species on the planet that poison their food so that other things won't eat it. Then they eat the food they poisoned. And you wonder why we're so sick. Well, there you go. Doesn't make any sense. And so, talking about food, people don't think that they can afford to eat healthy. Well, you can't afford not to eat healthy. It's going to catch up with you. And besides that, it's not more expensive. Maybe at first you have to transition, but most people eat so many empty calories that their body's never full or it's bloated with just toxic food, which is requiring more energy for your body to get rid of that stuff if it even can without killing the body in the process. You can get my book, Turn Back Your Biological Clock, online. I had a lady come in this week and she had purchased the book. She's a new patient. She came in Friday and goes, I read your book cover to cover. It was excellent, the best health book I ever read. I'm not trying to toot my own horn because I don't push my book enough, but it's a really great book in a story mode that's going to teach you how to get healthy. You can find it on Amazon, Turn Back Your Biological Clock. And also it's subtitled New Hope for Peripheral Neuropathy. And it's New Hope for demise of you know, going out a way you don't want to go out. Okay. So, I'm not even going to get through half the stuff I wanted to talk about on dogma in healthcare. Again, this is Dr. Duncan McCollum. By the way, if you've just got fed up with what's going on with your health or other people's, or you just want to take your health into your own hand and learn yourself, then the first thing I recommend you do is get a full set of digital x-rays of your spine. This way we can look at every one of those 31 pairs of spinal nerves, how they're coming out of the spine, whether there's pressure on them or not. We can take a look at different types of symptoms that you do or don't have, or symptoms you've covered up for so long you don't even know they're there anymore, or conditions that are there that haven't quite come to the surface yet that we can catch. So 37 bucks. Call my office, 831-459-9990. 831, a whole bunch of nines and a zero. 831-459-9990, and say, hey, I want to do the $37 x-rays. Come in, you sit down together, we talk about what's going on. I take a full set of digital x-rays. I have you come back another day after I've had time to look at them. And we sit down and talk to them, talk about them. No charge other than the 37 bucks. And then if we decide to do something, we'll talk about it. Whether we decide to do a soft wave, which is sound therapy, or lasers, which are light. We have sound and light and motion that we work with. We have vibration plates that stimulate the nervous system and the lymphatic system, motion, movement. So we have movement, we use light, which is three different kind of lasers that supercharge your mitochondria, sound that comes through the head of our machine, of this soft wave machine at 3,358 miles an hour, pure sound. And it goes through healthy tissue, but bumps into unhealthy tissue. And then we also use electromagnetic frequencies. It's a PEMF machine, a piezo electromagnetic frequency machine. And of course, we use chiropractic where we use our hands to make sure there's no physical pressure on a bone that's causing your body to hurt or not work or dimming the lights. So, that's pretty cool that that's the option that you have. So your body knows how to heal. It just needs to have interference taken away. One of the greatest chiropractors that ever lived, Dr. Reggie Gold, an amazing guy. I have a saying of his on my wall. It says, "Your body needs no help. It just needs no interference." And if we take the interference away, the body's going to start to heal. And if you don't believe that life has the tendency to live, then how about that weed in your driveway that comes out of the crack? You pull it, it comes out. You might even squirt weed killer on it. It still grows. You might, who knows what you do, burn it, it comes back. That is the innate intelligence of life. Your body is your vehicle, your innate ability to pose and solve problems so that your mind can give you the right solution is at your fingertips to use. You just need to make up your mind. You can change your mind like this in a heartbeat. You can decide, I am done. I'm going to get myself healthy. I'm tired of being a victim of my own circumstances or a victim of, the medical profession that has put me on this path of chronic disease and controlling of the chronic disease. Now, one thing I want you to know, I'm not telling you to stop taking medications that you've been prescribed. That would not be a smart thing to do. But you can become educated, and then you can start to talk to your medical doctor about those very harmful drugs that you want to come off of, let them help you. And or if you're not on prescription drugs, but you're taking painkillers all the time, then or antacids for crying out loud, then we can help your body reboot itself so it can heal. Not only do we work with the nervous system, but also the digestive system. Your digestive system, is anything and everything goes through your digestive system to create um, vitamins, minerals, and amino acids, fatty acids, so your body can sustain life. And we need to have a healthy immune system or a healthy digestive system. We need to have the right bugs in our gut. And I mentioned antacids a minute ago. I mean, people take these antacids or take them for years, whether they're a prescribed heavy duty one or one you get a roll of them off the shelf. These things have aluminum in them for one, and they also basify your stomach. They take the acid out of your stomach. Oh, gee, isn't that the problem? Acid in my stomach? Well, the problem really is not enough acid in your stomach or a body that's not putting it in at the right time. But the point is that the first 12 inches of your small intestine that attaches to your stomach at the bottom is where all calcium is absorbed in your body. The first 12 inches, it's called the duodenum. It means 12. And that 12 inches, the whatever goes through there has to be an acidic substance for the calcium to be absorbed out of your intestines into your bloodstream so it can get to your bones and whatever other systems that you need in order what calcium is needed for. So you take antacids and it's basic. So all of a sudden you have calcium going through your small intestine, first 12 inches, but the overall acid base measurement is basic because you're taking a basic antacid. And then, so that means that you're not going to absorb the calcium. And how many of us in our older age have our bone demineralizing from the foods we eat, medications we take, the lack of exercises that we may do. And really, the hidden factor is the calcium receptors in all of the bone in your body. There's a receptor that only calcium attaches to. There's a receptor where only estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, thyroid hormone, only a particular substance can attach to those, except lead is more attracted to that spot on the spine where calcium would attach. So what happens when we have lead in our environment, and it comes down 4 generations through mom's umbilical blood too. So it just keeps coming down because the best part of mom is getting into the baby. It's trying to get calcium out of the spine to give calcium to the baby. Well, if there's lead in mom's spine, that's crossing the blood-brain barrier and getting into the infant as well. So that's why we have 4 generations of heavy metals, mercury, and all these different substances getting into our baby. In fact, there was a study done by the environmental work group where they found 278 toxic chemicals in the umbilical blood being transferred to the baby. And the baby hasn't even lived outside the womb yet. So, and those are neurotoxins, they're carcinogenic, they're developmental toxins, all these various things. Look it up. Environmental work group study on toxins in the baby's umbilical cord. Don't take my word for it. So, at any rate, you know what my whole point today is that I want people to, whether they come see me or somebody else, I would like you to potentially make a decision to broaden your understanding of your own health, broaden it a little bit. You know, take a look at where you are in your age right now. I just turned 70, as probably most of you know, and 60 to 70 is a big change. You know, 20 to 30 wasn't so bad, 30 to 40 wasn't so bad. 40 to 50 is getting there, 50 to 60 is getting there, 60 to 70 is getting there. No matter what you do to be and stay healthy. I've been adjusted almost every week for 50 years. And I broke my back when I was 12, as you know. And I had a episode the other week where I broke my back, and I've had, you know, there's barely anything left there. I injured it. And I told you online, on this radio show, I go, you know what? I think I injure myself periodically to remember what's going on with pain. Because every time I get pain, it is a predominant thought in my body is this pain going to be with me for the rest of my life? So if that's my predominant thought, is this pain going to be with me for the rest of my life? And maybe you have that, or is this condition, or is this disease going to be with me for the rest of my life? At first, it's scary. You become, your palms almost start to sweat. You become dismayed. You start to think about the fact that it's over, you know? And then after months and months and months, or years and years and years, it's just part of it for you. You know, well, it's just part of being that everybody's sick. When I broke my back, I fell out of a tree at 12 on Tightwad Hill in Cal Berkeley, fell in a rainy day on a slope, crushed my fifth lumbar vertebra. Didn't know it. Went to the medical doctors in 1967 or 8, and they just said I had growing pains and gave me painkillers, told me to take aspirin. My mom just told me to take aspirin. They didn't pay attention because you were supposed to be seen and not heard back then. Oh, I heard it, and I grew up all the way till I was 20, just thinking that pain was normal. Pain, pretty soon that dogma, that imagined doctor, I was indoctrinated with the idea that pain was normal, that everybody had pain. How many times do I have patients say, "Oh, it's just a normal headache"? There is no normal headache. People say I have three headaches a week. Well, that's three headaches a week, 50 weeks in a year. That's 150 headaches a year. That's almost half a year you're having headaches. Does that make sense? Is that normal? It might be normal, but it ain't healthy. So we're indoctrinated with the idea that symptoms are normal. They're not normal. Symptoms are there that tell you something's wrong. So covering them up, like 70% of the $5 trillion spent on healthcare is directed. And you can look this up online. Where was that money spent? Probably ask Chat GDP if you want. And it will tell you 70% of it is covering up symptoms, not getting anybody any better. They're just slow, like a slow boat, just going down, like the Titanic going down. And, there's nothing you can do about it. Well, there is something you can do about it. Change your mind, get educated, come see me. 40 $37 for a set of spinal x-rays. And by the way, if you have joint pain, uh, peripheral neuropathy, low back pain, knee, shoulder, whatever, we have this soft wave therapy, and we do a laser as well with it. The laser, three lasers, we don't even advertise that, but I'm going to start to because there are some other machines in town, but nobody takes an x-ray of the area. Nobody does the treatment plus a three laser that turns on the energy of the cell. We're unique in that factor. I had the first machine in Santa Cruz in Northern California, 2019. I had number 200 in the country of the first lithotripsy machine. Now there's knockoffs. And, a lot of people have these machines that they may or may not work well. They may, but they're not taking an x-ray to see what's going on inside that joint to find out if they're just throwing your money away to a joint that's so deteriorated that, that you should know. Yeah, if you do the treatment, it is going to help. But with this degenerative disc or hip or shoulder, there or low back, there's other things that you should probably be doing rather than covering up the symptoms with a soft wave machine or all the different names out there. Shockwave, Softwave, Hydrowave is the newest one I got, and I've replaced, and I still have the old one I bought, but I got a newer, better model that goes deeper. So I don't know how many people are going to spend, close to $100,000 to get the newer one because, I use it for myself, be honest with you. All this stuff I get because I need it and because I want to be healthier. And then when I get it and find it works, I go, okay, well, let's get, you guys need to know about this. Nobody else has got one. I had number 200 in the country, number 403 off the factory line in Germany. Maybe I'm tooting my horn a little bit. I don't try to do that, but I do want you to know I'm on top of the healthcare system and how to get your body healthy naturally. So my question to you today is what what concepts regarding health may you want to question and or change? Are you comfortable where you are at? Are you comfortable with the medications covering up your symptoms? Your lack, we slowly kind of our world gets smaller and smaller and smaller to where, well, we don't go for walks anymore because I'm dizzy or because I'm not sure where my feet are going. When I drive, I'm not sure if my foot's on the gas or the brake. True enough. I hear this way more than I want to. And they're driving. And if you know anybody like that or that's you, this can be reversed if we catch it fast enough. We've done it multiple times. And why let this go? Now, you know, sure, insurance isn't going to cover this stuff. All they're going to do is give you drug medication and do the surgeries once everything quits. So, how many people come in and go, I can't afford to pay for my own health? We've been indoctrinated on the fact that if insurance doesn't pay for it, I'm not getting it. That's the worst crime that we have in our country in healthcare. If insurance doesn't cover it, I ain't paying for it. Well, you know what? Insurance doesn't cover you getting well. They cover up your symptoms. Now, Medicare covers a little chiropractic that you can get reimbursed for. A few of the different insurance companies cover a tiny bit, maybe. But if you're going to get well, it's up to you. Unfortunately, sorry to say. But your life depends on it, and your ability to get well depends on your desire and how many people come in and I tell them what they need, and they go, "Oh, we're going to remodel our kitchen next week, or we're going on a trip to Italy for 2 weeks, 10 grand, way more than it's going to cost to fix himself. We just got done remodeling our house, or, you know, some of the stuff's legitimate, or we needed to get, a new septic tank put in or something like that, a new roof because it was leaking like a sieve. But you know what? If you want something bad enough, you'll get it. I don't care where you put your importances. There's nothing like being alive. There's nothing like living your dream, and nothing compares to you having the full capacity of your life and your health. And if it's to be, it's up to me. I'm almost done with the show. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum, McCollum Family Chiropractic. I remember when my dad was in the last breaths of life, he was 91, and he's the youngest of all his siblings to die. Others were 97, 98, 93, and his dad lived to be 97. But as he was sitting there on his deathbed, and my sister and I were by him, he took a breath and he looked at us and he was quiet and he says, at last, finally, you're off my payroll. And that was about the last thing he said. And he was a funny guy to the day he died. But, he went out alone, and we all go out alone. Nobody knows the pain that you're suffering from. I have husbands and wife come in, and the wife has got 70% loss of nerve function in her feet, and the husband's there. And I go, "This is what it's going to take." And the husband looks at it and goes, "Honey, you need this more than anything." She goes, "No, I don't want to spend the money." "Honey, you need this." Or the husband or wife goes, "We can't really afford it." And I just think, and I look at the wife and the husband, they've been married 50 years or plus or none, and I go, wow, he doesn't know what she's going through. Because if he did, I imagine he'd probably want her to get the care. Or they don't believe we can fix them. We don't believe, and we don't fix anybody, by the way. The body fixes itself. Your innate ability to heal is what we're tapping into. We're removing the obstacles and using the modern understanding of how the body heals to help your body heal. What do we use? Sound, light, energy, and we free up your nervous system to communicate. Now, with a lot of toxins, that's a whole nother story where we have to take a look and see what the toxins are in your body so that we can help you eliminate them. So anyway, I hope this has been interesting today. I will probably carry on with it next show because I only got through a little bit of my notes. But, if you know anybody that needs to hear this, you can find this on my YouTube channel, Dr. Duncan McCollum. You can find it on my podcast, Dr. McCollum Wellness Radio, my podcast, McCollum Wellness Radio, probably be up in a week or so, or sooner than that. You can find it on Facebook. Um, I hope that this has been helpful today, and I hope it stirred some of you because I really don't want to think about people that are stuck and they don't know what to do. They don't have a direction to go in because they're stuck with this idea that, you know, the medical doctor or the chiropractor or acupuncturist they're going to might be too narrow-minded and not really by the time they check out and go to work, they don't think about you again until they come back in and you're on their list because they've given you the solution that their profession is telling them to give you. And so it's really up to you to do something. Come on in, peripheral neuropathy, $99 for us to find out if we can help you. Get a baseline of where you're at, full set of digital x-rays, and one of our treatments, the sound and light treatment. So you can see how that works. It's amazing, amazing. or $49 for one area like a hip, a knee, low back, shoulder, foot, something like that. $49 for an x-ray, a treatment of light and sound, and a second day report to see if it helped. And then maybe if it did, give you some hope on what we can go to from there. $37 for complete digital x-ray, head to pelvis, head, neck, thoracic, pelvis. No treatment with that. 37 bucks is it's pretty reasonable to get a full set of digital x-rays and a consultation and a second day report, and which if we think we can help you, we'll go over that with you at that time. So this is Dr. Duncan McCollum, McCollum Wellness Radio, here every Saturday 1 to 2. This has been Dogma, Healthcare, and the Conception of Deception. I hope you enjoyed it. And again, I'll just give my number, 831-459-9990. Tell a friend if you come in to or call the office. Come in and get a bottle of vitamin G, by the way. We've still got tons of vitamin G, which is 100% gratitude. We'll give it to you. I had one teacher ask for 50 bottles, which we gave it to her. So if you know anybody that needs gratitude, vitamin G, 100% pure gratitude, stop by and say, hey, I'm just here for a bottle of gratitude. And we'd love to give it to you. Okay, Dr. Duncan McCollum out. We'll see you next week. Oh, we're gonna run. We will rise above. We will rise above. Yeah.